This is 365 Sports.
The Midway Panthers podcast with David Smoak and head coach Shane Anderson is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford, Centex Bookkeeping, the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine, Safe and Secure Storage, and TFNB, your bank for life.
It is the weekly Midway Panthers football podcast with head coach Shane Anderson. I'm David Smoak. This is 365 Sports, and everything starts anew. You hear that a lot, and at times I'm like, it's kind of corny, but anything that's happened, 4-0, 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, 0-4, none of that matters other than what you've learned from it or gotten better from it, because these are the games starting now, 12-6A Hutto on the road Friday night, that lead to whether you play after the first week in November. Is that what you've been telling your players?
Absolutely, and like I've told people, I'll put our non-district schedule up against anybody in the state of Texas. I think we've played a really, really good non-district schedule, and I think their records speak for themselves, and I think we've learned a lot, and I think we're a better football team, and I think we're ready to go.
All right, so Hutto has Will Hammond. We saw him last year. You beat them at home last year, and he's a gunslinger now, and he's got Alex Green, the wide receiver, who's fantastic. Hammond's committed to Texas Tech. You've seen good quarterbacks. The guy at at Vandegrift was smooth as silk. What makes him so dangerous? Because I don't think it's just his arm.
No, I think he's a football player. I think he could play any position on the field, defensive back, receiver, running back. He could do it all. He's a good, he's just a tough kid, got a lot of grit. He doesn't, you can watch film on him, and he's not out there running his mouth. He's a leader, and he runs just as tough, as he throws it. And so, he's a football player. He's going to make plays, and when they've got to have it, number two is going to have the football in his hands.
Alex Green's the wide receiver. Is he as good as Miles Coleman at Vandegrift?
Yeah, I think he's it's a different kid. He's more of a possession, big bodied,
8 to 10 catches a game.
Yeah, deep threat. He'll win the 50-50 ball most of the time. He's not a slasher. He's not going to just burn by you. He's not going to, they're not trying to get him the ball in space, so to speak. But he's a really, really good high school wide receiver, and he's going to be a really good college wide receiver.
I use this analogy with Shane in the interview we'll have in our Friday pregame. By the way, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 the kickoff, right, at Hutto to open up 12-6A on 106.7 FM, the Eagle, and also on the Sikkim 365 app. I play golf. I love to play golf, and I'm not bad. My handicap's like right now a 5, but if I have a tough front 9, no matter what, if it's like just not quite good enough, or if it's like, my goodness, I want to go to the car and put my clubs up. The thing about golf is you can clear it because there's another 9. It still adds to the score you've screwed up, but it does seem like you start over. Is that an analogy that makes sense with district games starting now?
Yeah, I think so. Our number one goal is to be a playoff football team. And, obviously we want to win every game we play, and we want the record to be more wins than losses. But at the end of the day, our goal is to get this senior class back in the playoffs. They've done everything we've asked them to do since we've been here. We have a handful of them that have been 3-year letterman on the varsity and that have taken it on the chin. Mm-hmm. They've bought in, they've stuck around, they've hung around. And they've done everything we've asked, and it's our job as coaches, and it's their job as players for each other to go out there, starting this Friday night and find a way to get in the playoffs.
So far in 12-6A, everybody's pretty much taken a beating in some ways with the record, and they also have played good people too. But other than Weiss out of Pflugerville, who you closed the year with, everyone else is kind of like trying to stay above water. Harker Heights has had a couple of nice wins, but even they've had a hick year too. Is it wide open right now, this district?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it's good football teams that have played good people, like you said. And, I think everybody, every year's different, and really every week's different. And, it's a matter of getting better and getting hot at the right time and staying healthy, in our district, there's not a whole lot of depth. I think, you can start with us. And I think that's the biggest deal. And you go to the Metroplex, or you go to, the Austin area, and you're looking at 3,000 to 5,000 students in a high school and those kind of programs. Seems to be a little bit more depth. We're the biggest school, and everybody else is within 200 kids of us enrollment wise. So we're all very, very comparable. All of us have really good players at certain positions, and all of us are trying to hide players at certain positions. And so, it's what high school football is about. It's about getting the kids to believe and getting them to go out there and play hard every week. And like I said, we're going to have to show up to play the next 6 weeks.
I know that when people look at a score against Heath last week in Rockwall, 31-24, it was 31-3 at one point. Never seen a game where I've seen a couple of safeties so quick, almost identical. But the end result is that Jackson Baird hit a couple of long Ty Brown hit Jackson for a couple of long throws, and there was a chance. So who knows? An onside kick, the ball can bounce funny. What did that mean, despite the fact you still lost the game and we're down by 4 scores?
Well, I think you said it. The final score obviously looked a lot better than it was, in the third quarter. And, we challenged our kids at halftime, to come out and fight and, not give up no matter what the scoreboard said. And hats off to Coach Webb and the Heath Hawks. I mean, they were ready to play, and they were a lot more ready to play than we were, and they played a lot harder than we played in the first half especially. And, we were their homecoming. And, I challenged our kids at home at halftime, hey, look, they're going to have a party tonight. I mean, it's going to be a homecoming party. Then you can either ruin it or you can let them have a really good party. And I think our kids went out there and fought for 4 quarters. And, here we are again this week, and we're Hutto's homecoming. So, we've been in our kids' ears this week, and they understand that this one means something, and this is not non-district, and that we have to go out and play well.
And I think your Temple's homecoming.
Yeah, that's the word on the street.
Okay, that kind of, I want to use another word. That gets you a little bit?
Well, I mean, like I said.
I mean, I'm sorry, I was never very athletic. I was like the guy that was the stirred it up guy, and I just played hard, which means I wasn't very athletic. But that would be something that I don't even know what I would be like on game night. I mean, I don't want to do any pregame speech here, but that would infuriate me.
Yeah, and that's, I think, times have changed. I hope our kids take it the same way I take it. I'll tell you that.
Okay. You saw a freshman and running back. You had told me about Lathan Wissington, his brother. Landon's a safety. That he's got something to him, and he does, but he's 14 years old. But he scored, and Longoria had a nice run right before that. Your running game's not right now hitting much, but that's why you wanted to give Lathan a little bit of an opportunity to add to the mix. How good can he be?
No, I think he can be really, really good. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've already started sending his stuff out and getting his name out to guys that I know at the Power 5 level, and I coached a kid named Javion Sunday.
Oh, yeah. And
he reminds me a lot of that young man. And so I think he can be really, really special. And like you said, he's still a baby. He's 14-year-old freshman. And, it's funny. My son's in 8th grade, and he's 14. And so Lathan's basically 2 months younger than my son, who is in 8th grade, and Lathan's a freshman. So, like I said, I've tried to give Jackson every opportunity to be as mature as possible. But, Lathan's a really good player, very, very physical. I think you saw that in some runs.
Yeah.
And he's got to learn how to take care of himself. He's got to learn, he's got to get better at the pass pro, got to get better at some things, to be expected from a freshman. But, we look for big things out of him. He's had another great week of practice, and I think you're going to see an even better Lathan Friday night.
4 picks could have been, which means it didn't happen. One was called back for what I thought was a little ticky-tack on Canyon Martin, I think, when he had a pick, who was as much the receiver as the receiver. You had the one DJ drop one in the end zone, next play they score. You had a couple of others. That means you didn't make the plays, but it also means you're close to that. And I know that sounds like, but close.
We've talked to our kids about, putting yourself in position. Obviously it starts with having a great week of practice and understanding what they're fixing to do, and based on formation and based on down and distance. And, I think our kids have really, really learned a lot of football defensively the first 4 weeks. And, we were right there. Like you said, we dropped 3 of them right there in our hands. And, you get 4 turnovers in a ball game like that, you're probably going to win the football game.
Absolutely.
And so, that's just, but like I said, close only counts on horseshoes and hand grenades.
Carlos Talton at times has made big plays. He had a huge sack in that game. And then I thought Donovan Jones was a man. in that game. Now, there's probably some things he could have done better. I don't get to watch the film. I don't know but there were times when he looked like a grown man in bringing some things from you or for you on the defensive end.
Yeah, Donovan's a good football player, and he's been a defensive guy, last year as a freshman, he played both sides. In junior high, he played both sides. And, like I said, last year he was primarily a defensive guy. And, Coach President and those guys on offensive used him as a tight end. And he's created some mismatches and done some things, for us there. And, now he loves playing defense. And when he gets out there, he plays with his hair on fire. And but I think he's played himself into really, really good shape. And my goal for Donovan, I told him, I said, I don't want you to come off the field. I want you to be the best football player in the district, but you got to prepare like it. You got to practice like it, and that's hard for a kid to understand. That the preparation. I mean, you got to think the film prep, the practice prep times 2. And that's different, and especially at the 6A level. And so he's really embraced it. He does a great job, he shows up on Monday mornings at 7:20, and we start scouting report at 7:30, and he's ready to go, and he practices really, really well. And so like I said, we need him to stay healthy, and we need him to keep playing well.
Last thing on football, you have a team that has a little bit of that what I call stuff in their neck. I mean, you got some guys that are. They're emotional, maybe overly so, but at least they're emotional. Some things that happen post-play. That's been kind of a trend. But they're trying to scratch and claw. You'd hope it turned that into what they're doing during the play. A little bit on the edge at times because you're not a team that can afford to give somebody an automatic first down or to lose 15 yards on offense.
Yeah, absolutely not. And that's not football. That's not the brand of football we want to play. We want to play between the whistles. We want to play tough, physical. And, you've seen it. You watch plenty of football. And, sometimes when you're taking it on the chin a little bit, you get frustrated. And, and I'm as guilty as anybody. I say things and do things sometimes that I don't necessarily mean, just out of frustration. And so, you got to understand, but at the same time, that's part of being a football player is being disciplined and self-discipline and controlling yourself. And that's part of being a man. And the rest of your life, you're going to have to face things that you don't like and things that make you mad. And you're going to have to handle it or you're not going to have a job and you're not going to be married and you're not going to, do the things that you want to do as a man.
3-21 is your record at Midway. And I know you don't want to hear that, but I say that because I want to put things in perspective. And again, the game on Friday, 7:30, we'll have our pregame on 106.7 FM at 7. And also, you can hear it on the app, Sikkim 365 app. There's a link for that. But you're walking off the field after losing in Rockwall, and all of a sudden you are told that you've lost a man that loved you to death, who thought you were perfect, but really was a major part of who you are today and your grandfather and Tommy. Give people a chance to know what Tommy meant for you.
All right. Well, you told me you were going to do this, and so I was a little bit prepared, but it's tough. And he was my biggest fan I'll be 40 years old next Saturday the 30th, and he was my biggest fan for 40 years. And it's tough, but at the same time, he was what I wish we had more of, like you said. And he's a tough, hard-nosed, loved big, loved hard. He was one of the biggest Conley Cadet fans there was. And I think that's probably the only thing he's ever been disappointed in me is for leaving Conley. And but at the same time, I know he loves me, and I know he's going to be watching over us and all of his grandkids and great-grandkids. And, like I told somebody the other day, the coolest thing is he's 89 years old, and he didn't lose a kid or he didn't lose a grandkid before he passed. And that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And he lived a good life, and he showed us what hard work and love and just, passion for your family was about. And so, we'll celebrate him next week. My cousin's a coach in the Panhandle, and so we've kind of scheduled his services around football. And, my uncle's a coach at Conley still. And So we're going to have that service next Tuesday. That's my cousin and them's bye week. They're 6 hours away, so it made sense to not make them drive 6 hours and then turn around and drive 6 hours back. So it's their bye week. They'll be able to come in, spend some time with us, and we'll get that done and pay respects to him and celebrate his life. But I appreciate you asking about him, and I love him, and he's in a better place.
Passed away on Friday during the evening, and Shane, as he's walking off the field with family, getting to know that. And I say that because, listen, wins and losses are huge, and you want to win a lot more than you lose, and all of that. But it does put life in perspective. When I've lost both of my parents, lost all four of the basically parents, all my grandparents, all of them are gone. And those days put things in perspective. You wish you could like carry over the hurt or the feelings and be as good as they were throughout your life. I love you, man. I do. And I know it's not easy at 0-4, and I know there's a lot of work to be done, but I wanted everyone to understand the emotions of what real life is about.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love you too, and I appreciate what you do for us.
Shane Anderson's the football coach at Midway. Hutto, Friday night, they have a stadium they've redone. It's going to be great. 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 the kick in Hutto, Midway, 126A. David Smoak with my great friend Shane Anderson. This is 365 Sports.
This is 365 Sports.
The Midway Panthers podcast with David Smoak and head coach Shane Anderson is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford, Centex Bookkeeping, the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine, Safe and Secure Storage, and TFNB Your Bank for Life.